Hello, everybody. Welcome to This is the most professional beginning, I think, to a podcast we've had since the first one.
No, it's quite interesting. We usually do a little clap beforehand to sync up our audio.
Yeah.
We are recording off of two computers right now, but they're in the same room, as are we.
Yeah, we are seated in front of each other. I'm looking at Braxton currently. He's wearing
My
some
ugly
glasses. No, it's an all right mug.
I've got it. I don't have a mug with me, actually. Hey, you're not even
What happened to
drinking
your
that mug
water?
now.
Did you bring it?
Well, it's on the ground. It's not a
Oh.
mug, though. It's glass.
It's
But
fair.
I randomly decided to, pretty randomly, come to Denton, Texas again from Chicago and
Yeah.
surprise our D&D group and have an in-person session, and it was great. And I've been seeing my friends again, and that's also been very, very wonderful. And now we get the chance to record the podcast in person.
Yeah, it's been good fun.
It has been very good fun.
But you were flying and drove. And
The flight was kind of terrible just because it was delayed.
yeah.
I got a little bitter about it. I don't know if I told you, but I had like one of those. There's a German word for this that I don't remember, but it's like a thought that you have that like shouldn't be voiced because it's probably you being happy
It's not
about their
short
misfortune.
Freud, is it?
Yeah,
It
something
is?
like that.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
something like
Something
that.
German.
And I was napping on the plane before our takeoff because I got upgraded to a good seat. That was nice. That was awesome.
Good seat is in 5 extra inches of legroom or something.
Yeah, but it was nice, like bigger seat because I got fat thighs. I don't.
Big.
It was nice.
Yeah.
But I was passing out, and
Sure.
I'm like, as my head's falling down, I'm nodding off. I wake up and I'm like, we haven't moved in like 45 minutes.
It's a sad feeling.
Oh, especially after waking up from a nap because
Yeah,
most people
yeah.
get cranky, and I'm one of those people. So as I'm processing things with my cranky colored glasses, that was interesting. A lamp just moved and
Yeah,
it
no
scared
one
the
saw
Christ
that.
out of me. So I look at my phone and I notice, there's been a delay due to medical assistance that is needed.
Yeah, I never heard that before.
No.
I've flown a lot.
No, I
Never
haven't heard that either. And my first thought was, it's so morbid.
Zombies?
No.
That would be my first
But I
thought.
texted my brother and I'm like, delayed due to quote unquote medical assistance. Just go die off the plane. Why do we have to be delayed?
It's a fair point.
Like just
It was late an hour.
yeah, an hour. Like just get the
Just get
person
them
and
off
pull them
and
off.
then we can go.
But after I processed things and I felt terrible for what I said and I'm understanding that I have karma
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
my way probably at some point in time, I was like, okay. And it was this older person who I don't know if they were passed out or not, but they pulled them off the plane.
But you said they didn't get brought back on.
no.
So, yeah, so why
They
not
had to
just
get the
leave?
paramedics there, so they couldn't just like lug him off with the attendees.
The
or
last
the-
time that happened, some guy brained his head or something.
I don't know. But, I'm sure with those flight attendants and those pilots, they have certain protocols and like a little playbook
Yeah,
that
they
they
gotta
can go
follow
by.
something.
They've got to follow something.
Yeah.
Segue.
Oh.
Today's episode. Have you read the title? So we're looking through the best resource possibly for a DM, and it's something that usually doesn't exist until they start putting it together themselves.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to figure out what goes where.
Right. So DM's binder or even the sort
DM
of
screen.
partition, the DM screen.
You don't need a DM screen, but if you want to feel powerful and separate yourself from the peons, then yeah, you definitely need one.
Yeah, and if you're doing stuff online like I do most of the time, they can't see anything you're doing.
Yeah,
So everything
maybe
is a DM screen.
sorts of secret stuff.
Secret.
Actually, is a really nice DM screen online. I actually don't think I've sent you, but it's set up like an actual. I mean, but she just has everything instead of OneNote having everything separated. It's all on one screen. Just,
Yeah.
and it's like this.
And like I voiced, OneNote's great, but again, you have to poke things and move stuff around.
Just have a nice search feature though, which I
Yes, that has been immensely useful. We talked about
Yeah.
that a bit last podcast. But let's get into what this partition is, because it's more than just hide the
Look at-
story
look-
that
look
you've
at
written
the
for these
back. It's
people.
so cool looking. This I did buy. This DM screen that we're looking at that you guys can't see. I'm gonna post pictures of it on our Twitter. Is I bought somewhere. I probably just typed in DM screen online and I found one. I don't remember what this.
Kind of looks like something out of Magic the Gathering with the
A little bit, yeah. It looks
four
like
colored
a card
jewels,
back or
green,
something
blue,
too.
red,
Yeah.
yellow.
Very fantasy-esque though. And I have a second one that I've used a couple of times that was more Lovecraftian inspired.
Yeah.
Got from a Kickstarter. And the only issue that I have with that one, and some people, and this is if you play in person, something you have to decide if you want to have a vertical DM screen or horizontal DM screen. Yeah, there's some differences.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, so this is vertical,
Yeah.
up and down. Horizontal would be like this. So it's not as tall, but wider.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just some DM screens are set up differently.
But you'd have to print everything out on landscape.
Some Steam screens are like that.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Which also, full disclosure, the ones I have in the little, you also want to make sure that there's sheet.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on
Not
too.
all do.
Right. And for the back especially, I don't know if those are attached or if it's also inserts.
They're attached, but they're inserts, so you can put something in front of it if you
Okay,
so
yeah.
wish.
So that you could change for the themes of whatever's going on in your campaign too.
Yeah,
it'd be really festive.
cool.
Like Halloween's coming up. You can put some spooky pumpkins on there.
That would be really cute.
Really cute, yeah. We rolled by what's the term for people that are older and go to those hospitals?
Elderly?
Yeah, the older people. What are those hospitals called?
Nursing homes?
Yeah, those. There were scarecrows outside,
yeah, it was
and
terrifying.
They're these cute little skeletons, and Ryan's just like, "Oh, it's scary. These old people are half to death already." Closer, actually.
Yeah.
I was like, Ryan, stop.
It's all right. It's all right. But yeah, these are handy to have, and like I said, you want to make sure. I mean, some Steam screens, like you can buy one from Wizards of the Coast that's set up with what they think is important. I don't necessarily agree with all the stuff that they have on there. Like stuff I'd never use that, so that's why I didn't buy that. I wanted one that I could change and put what I wanted in there.
Yeah.
So make sure whenever you're buying something, make sure you know that it can. Like the Lovecraft one I have has stuff set up for like Call of Cthulhu games.
Okay.
You don't play, but I was able to like kind of paperclip and tape my actual DM screen.
So there's an actual Call of Cthulhu tabletop game?
Yeah, you never heard of it?
I feel like it's kind of like the antithesis to Lovecraft in general, like an entire game about, maybe that's why they fail so often now, because having an entire game focused on that, it's more of like something that pokes its head in from this real world that is set in normalcy, and then somebody goes crazy.
I feel like though the Call of Cthulhu, I never played it. Obviously, I've looked at some of the modules because I kind of reworked them to maybe if I want to
just like 100% Cthulhu all the time.
No, it's I mean it's just all Lovecraft, so like you're left at tap and all that crazy stuff is in there. But like the modules are pretty cool. I think it works better in the video games and movies because it's much easier to portray someone's insanity just by reading it out to them and talking to them and someone can roleplay insanity than being forced in a video game. Or something.
And I'm sure in that game you'd need a demon spider or something like that as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So anyway,
what's on this thing?
So let's start with there's 4 kind of sections on this DM screen that I have. The far left side has spellcasting stuff. So
stuff useful in combat.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff. I mean, a lot of it you could say is pretty basic stuff, but sometimes if it's a new player or something and you don't memorize the entire player's handbook, which would be stupid if you did that anyway.
Hey.
Or I mean, that's stupid.
Be careful with your claims there.
But if you decide, I mean, if you felt like you had to, you don't have to. But this helps to make it just easier. So if Braxton were in the middle of a game and he asked me a specific question like, what can I do with my spells? Oh, well, you got cantrips, you got long rest. I mean, it's like, how do I get my spells back? Well, obviously I know that already, but if I didn't, long rest on here restores all extended spell slots. Or if you're a fancy warlock, short rest.
Yeah.
But you'd probably know that if you're playing.
Yeah, and as you use these things, you find out what you need and don't need, so you can start customizing it. But for a new DM, if you don't want to look like you're a new DM, I would say getting this set up and getting familiar with it, being able to navigate it will really... It might make you feel a bit less nervous.
You don't feel like you have to make one.
Oh, no.
This one I found online as well. It's nice, got colors. It's split up pretty nice. I wish I knew the guy that made it, but this was years ago.
Yeah, even the OneNote note we use is exactly like it has a DM screen.
It's very nice.
Yes, and you can search stuff all the time.
But the place I use the most on this left side, and if I find it, we'll post it on our Twitter as well.
Yeah.
All the resources we're talking about here, is the ability score section, because it's easy to forget what like a lot of people get athletics and acrobatics confused, which I don't blame them. It's kind of tough, but athletics, it even says here, is mainly for climbing, jumping, and swimming.
Yeah.
And because it makes sense in the strength section, and then acrobatics is for stunts, balancing, rolls, flips, and stuff like that.
There are a lot of situations they can interchange, but still.
Yeah. It's just easy to look at this and
describe it.
Yeah, just understand. Okay, I want this guy's trying to track something. Would that be nature, survival? You check on here. Survival says to, for hunting and tracking. Okay, just give him a survival check.
I just realized now that I'm looking at this, and it has the shapes for the spellcasting. I've cast a cube before, but since I was only looking at a 2D plane, I did not think it goes up.
Yeah, it does go up. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense why some of those spells that may seem underwhelming when they have a 20-foot cube, that's square that's flying, a lot of surface area to cover.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Then the other nice thing about these ability scores, it also has like easy, moderate, hard, very hard, which in the DM's gotta believe it separates those DCYs. That easy is 10, moderate's 15, hard is 20, and then very hard is 25. I believe is how that's
For
set up.
level or CR?
No, like DC.
DC.
So like
Okay,
if you were
okay.
like something really easy would just be
Okay.
a DC of 10.
So, okay, gotcha. So role playing and stuff like that.
Yes.
And it's all color coordinated, so you can get familiar with.
Yeah. Strength red, dexterity is green. It's easy to take your brain, eyes right to it. Then just briefly talked about death saves, which in case you forget, what a critical, what if you roll 20 or roll a 1, what exactly that does.
Yeah.
Oh, it has it right here. Yeah, task DC, easy 10, moderate, hard, very hard, nearly impossible is 30. That's why sometimes if someone gets a natural 20, I always ask, what does that add up to? Sure, it's the highest, but
yeah. So
got to.
when that happens, do you take the crit into account? Because
Yes, I definitely do.
you could say that the how could I put this? If you could roll negative numbers and you roll a 1, even though the
still
DC is -1, it's a critical fail. So I feel like 1 is auto pass and 20, depending on what DM you are, maybe auto fail or auto pass. What I mixed it up, but you know what I mean. Yeah, flip it around. So what do you think about that? I know it makes sense because if something's 30 and you get a 20 and it does not add up to that,
sure,
but it's still a 20.
I think for hard DCs, like someone trying to grapple you and their DC is 30, I think for a natural 20, I would still allow it.
Okay.
I would allow them to break out of it just because, it's a critical. Sure, why not? Especially because everyone gets all excited, I got a natural 20.
Yeah.
But for, like, let's say, I know if someone's doing a history check, DC of 10, they get just this information, 15, et cetera, et cetera. 30, they'd get everything. They get a natural 20, and only adds up to 23. I'll still take the critical into account, but I won't give all the information.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
You're really subdued in terms of what you do with fails and crits.
Yeah, I don't get too
no.
crit.
And that makes sense because crit fails can be depressing.
So yeah, I'll at least narrate it a little bit differently, but I'm not going to be like, I don't want to super,
depress people. Just
like you lose your weapon, you go something.
Yeah.
Or you hit your friend. I only do that if it's like dark or something.
Yeah.
You can't see your attack.
In my case, I can snap my weapon back because I'm a Hexblade, so it's fine.
Right.
But other people aren't so fortunate.
Yeah, not everyone's cool with
No.
that. Also has, in case you do this, and not everyone does, to how much time it takes to don or doff your armor, which I believe,
Is that the word?
take off. Oh, yeah, that's what doff is, right? Yeah. Because don would be to put it on.
That's
doff
hilarious.
The opposite. Because technically you can't sleep with medium or heavy armor.
You could argue that you could, but I get the mechanic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it against Wizard of the Coast to decide that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving along.
That's the first page.
Okay.
Probably the one I use the most.
Yes, so that's all the way on the left, and then I'm looking at something that's got actions.
I think about it. Maybe I should move a little closer to the middle. So
Yeah.
I use it all the time. So then the middle one, or middle left one, is basically just for combat purposes, which actually is still pretty useful. So probably good to have in the middle. It basically shows exactly the way combat is. A lot of people get confused on how surprise rounds work because there really isn't.
We've already talked about this in my brand new campaign. We were in an
it's
arena, and somebody had been blinded by a flash, like a cantrip that somebody did. I think prestidigitation. I said that really well. And and they go, "Oh, is this a sneak attack?" And I go, "Well," and I didn't say to quote Ryan, but what you've said is he's aware he's in a fight right now, and this guy's a pretty seasoned, hunter. Right. He's not going to be surprised by something that hits him, though. Maybe flavor-wise, you could lower the DC or AC even if his AC is really high.
Yeah, I think it's fun to.
Secretly,
especially people are thinking outside of the box. I like giving you guys some bones here and there.
Yeah, like lower the AC by 1 and something like that. Yeah,
exactly. And then we talked about this. We probably should have hit the record button. We were having this huge conversation about combat.
Yeah, that was great.
A month ago.
Yeah,
weeks ago. But we talked about how like attacking certain body parts or trying to go for their eyes, which in that case would raise the DC, the AC of them. But if you hit, that's smart. You're going for the eyes.
Maybe they get
blinded for a round or
disadvantage
something.
on attack.
They gotta try to wipe stuff out. You toss sand in their face or something.
Pocket sand.
Yeah.
You don't know what that is. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's a meme. Ryan doesn't know memes.
No, I don't. But it basically says that you determine if there's a surprise or not. Establish the positions. Roll initiative. Take turns in the round. Each turn is 6 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Basic. Get it out.
And this is very clear. So make sure if you're making a DM binder that whoever you are, whatever organizational techniques that you appreciate and works with your thought process,
understand
get that. Just don't just smack one on there because
Make
you
sure
may
the
have trouble.
font's pretty big too. You don't want to smack too much stuff in here.
Get a nice sans on there, helps you read.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, this is just stuff you want immediately. The DM binder stuff you can add more crap to. So once we get to the binder, that'll be a little more in depth. And then it has a little line that goes from the turn section to what you can do on your turn. Movement, interactions, actions, bonus actions, reactions. And then it has a huge section on actions. A lot of people forget that there's more than just attacking. You can disengage. You can dodge. You can use your action to help somebody. Yeah. You can dodge a wrench. You can dodge.
Hey, he knows that one. That was pre-meme era.
Yeah, that's a movie though. I like the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. Stabilize. It's important to remember that you can stabilize somebody.
What's that improvise thing on the bottom?
Well, it says take an action not listed here, almost like what we were just saying, provided that the DM agrees anything major like kick down doors or performing miscellaneous skill checks or like tossing sand up, say that'd be an action, stuff like that.
So interesting. Okay, so you've got the improvise thing, which is qualified as an action, but then you've got the interactions, which is not an action.
Yes,
and some people forget about that.
Yes, interaction here is you may communicate simple phrases, not full sentences, draw or store a weapon, open an unlocked door, pull a lever, pass an item. Anything strenuous, you need to use your action. One per turn.
Okay. So, I mean, don't forget that you've got a full action, bonus action, a reaction, which can be used when it's not your turn as well, as the nature of a reaction is, and an interaction in addition to your movement as well.
A lot of stuff you can be doing.
Yeah, we didn't really cover. You've explained it to us, but I didn't fully understand that it was a separate thing. Interactions.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of. I've heard people use like instead of interactions, they'd use an actions like pull a lever, which I mean that's pretty extreme to use your whole action.
Well, if it's something that takes strength,
yeah, like, if it's a heavy lever,
it's a rusted stone lever. You're like, this is kind of a tough thing to pull.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, don't forget the help action, like with for familiars. Definitely use your help action, give people some advantage on attacks and things. Which, if you think about it, can be a little weird, but I think as a DM, just make sure you or the player describes what the animal's doing too.
Touchy subject. My owl's dead because Ryan killed it.
Yeah, but technically it's Fey, so it's still out there.
Well, yeah, I've got a different spell.
If you go to the Fey Wild, maybe it's what they're waiting.
Maybe. Oh, that'd be so interesting. What he actually looks like? Because he's not an owl.
It's just a spirit. Yeah,
a spirit.
Huh. Oh, then speaking of interactions, the section at the bottom left here shows
that's
what
prompted it.
Yeah, you can draw a weapon, open, etc. We already said that stuff. Then it just talks briefly about cover. So if something has half cover, 3/4 cover, and total cover, which I mean, total's cover. The person can't see it, you can't attack it.
Yeah, that inhibits your ability to hit whatever thing is attacking you.
So that's that one. The next one is also similar-ish about combat, but continues off of just conditions that you can receive.
Petrifying is so bad in everything.
Petrified's pretty scary, yeah.
Especially in Divinity Original Sin 2.
You get heavy too. Weight times 10.
Oh, so you're not... Yeah, you are incapacitated. Unaware of surroundings. Attackers have advantage. Autofill, strength, and dex saves. Resistance to all damage. Hey, or immune to... Okay.
Yeah, and usually the effect that gave you Petrified will say how you can get out of it. Sometimes you can't. Unless you find something specific.
Well, in Divinity, you literally just die.
Yeah.
From it, unless you quickly take it out.
Basilisks are pretty nasty. Because they're... Speaking of CR, we talked about this before. They're pretty low CR. But if they petrify some guy... You do.
Yeah, that can make it really interesting. It's about we talk about combat a lot, me and Ryan, off the podcast, but it's something in a very easy way to make things interesting is just making sure you read monster manuals and find those quirky monsters that make a combat that isn't just whack spell, you know?
Yeah, you find something that makes it a little interesting. It's sometimes it can be tough because the monster manual doesn't have the most interesting things, but I think it's read outside of the box. So just checking out see if it says on the petrification thing for it says greater restoration spell or other magic. That is it. I believe it says in the lore though for these things that the oil, the poison inside of the basilisk can be used to, if it's poured on a petrified thing, can unpetrify it. So it's not in the thing, but according to the book, which is why it's important just to read the book, they're not just stat blocks. If you kill some of these basilisks, you can get your friend back if you're able to dissect them well.
Though the thing is, you may need to have a botanist or somebody that is good at animal handling or medicine checks, because that would be a pretty tough DC.
Yes.
You would have to have specifically researched basilisks.
Because I could say maybe you get a little bit and you can pour it you'd have enough to get on a body part.
Yeah.
You get off their head so they can at least still talk.
And say your player rolls like a 16, and you're like, okay, I was given like a 25 for this. Because I mean, you would not just know this about basilisks, but you can change your rhetoric and your language to the way that okay, so you do well enough. You know that basilisks have a poison and it's housed in their body. You're not sure what it could lead to. I mean, maybe that typical antidotes are made from things that are inside of these animals' body, and that's a vague hint, but
sure. Or if the players are really freaking out and they don't know what to do, maybe they run into an adventurer who's already in the area who's hunting the basilisks for this purpose. He says, "I believe this will help my friend who's been petrified. Maybe it can help your guy too."
Yeah, because you don't want to just leave your player.
You don't want them to feel terrible about it.
Yeah, because even death is one thing, but your player being alive and not being able to do something is even worse.
And because they are CR3, which is you could put that against a low level party. And granted, the DC to not be petrified is 12, and they get 2 attempts. They start turning into stone, and you get it. So if you fail the second one, then
you just flex really hard, and then
that'd be cool.
You're free.
Just break out.
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, that's conditions. Has blinded, charmed. All the stuff we talked about. They're on my cards from last week are on here. Then about travel, how difficult terrain is. Forced march, which is important for a party that's trying to escape something. That's when if you go longer than 8 hours of travel.
Okay.
So leading to exhaustion. Yeah. So if the party's running from something or decides we're close enough to the village, just go an extra hour. Then it has the exhaustion table right next to it, which is quite handy. Talks about climbing and swimming, which definitely comes up sometimes, which is easy to okay, how does swimming work for me? I just says it costs plus 1 foot of movement unless you have, an item or something that has a swim speed. What your travel speed is, which is important. What stealth is like. Even shows radius for candles and lamps and stuff, so you know how far it would extend to.
This thing is pretty great. And there's still more. We've only been through. That's the last page.
It's the last page. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the third page. And this is on the far right. This has basically just items, and it has weapons section, which basically has all the descriptions for, let's say, so a glaive, which is what Braxton's character uses, is a heavy one?
Which I didn't think it would be. I thought a halberd would be the heavy version of it, but it's a heavy, versatile weapon.
Heavy, versatile. And if you think about it, if you just see that going, oh, it's that? It's heavy. Okay, I know what that is, but versatile. What does it mean in the game? Shows here heavy is small creatures at disadvantage on the attack, and you say it was reach is versatile. Can be used with either one-handed or two-handed, depending on.
It does have reach.
Yeah, reach, which basically means it adds 5 feet to the reach of the attack.
It's a pretty good weapon. I would use again. Have used again.
Yeah, 2 characters have used it, I think.
I think one used No, it did turn into a glaive.
Yeah.
Because I looked at the design and I really liked the Black Knight halberd from Dark Souls.
Which is a pretty cool looking, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's weapon stuff, just describes that. So DMs can just have it easy on hand. Then it has a bunch of items, things you can find in stores, like in blacksmiths. Basically, it doesn't have adventuring items, just weapons of simple melee, martial melee, range stuff, etc. I think it was important, so Braxton can see this, you guys can. I wrote on what potions are and how much they would be, because I want to make sure I remember this, because potions are important for the party to have.
God, yeah, they are.
So I have just pot 1 and pot 2, which is minor and superior, I think, or is that greater? I don't know. I think it's great. I think superior is the bigger one.
It's minor, potion of healing, greater, superior.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Would be my guess.
Yeah, 2d4 plus 2, 50 gold is the average, 120 gold for the next one, and 44 plus 4. I also have rations on here.
We had like a ration hype for a bit. Go back to the bottom of that page though.
Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about services.
Yeah. There was something I wanted to touch on, like this specifically, because I improv a lot, would be very useful.
Oh yeah.
And it can feel like you're skimping out on your players when they're searching for things, and you're just like gold, 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 but don't forget that everything has a gold value.
Yeah.
And what this does is creates a small micro goal in a sense. Like,
stuff going
okay, yeah, we need to find somebody and sell this, and that creates both. They're going to get gold, interact with somebody, they're going to role play, and it's going to be a thing that, like, a really small quest for them to do versus we just got some gold.
Sure. Yeah, and they can maybe even bargain with the guy, get a discount, or increase you become friends with the guy. It's like, sure, I'll buy this for the extra money. Or if they know the guy really likes daggers, they give him a dagger.
Services.
Yeah, services are important.
What is that?
So let's say there's some downtime, or you just want to get something enchanted, spell levels, or make something. It shows for if you want to get something like a spell related item, it'd be a spell level squared times 10 plus the consumable cost times 2. Sounds a little confusing, but I mean, it spells
Well, I mean,
important.
spell level. So let's go for level 2. So 2 times 2 is 4 times 10 is 40 gold right there.
Mm-hmm. Plus the consumables cost, which usually the consumables will DM make it on the fly, but a lot of the DM guide stuff has a lot of the consumable costs. Yeah, it can spells can get pretty pricey, and it's important to remember also selling items. Magic items are not easily sold because not everyone has the gold for it.
Yeah.
So it's got unless you're doing a high magic campaign, obviously. Then coach, if you're getting a coach, they want to just get a ride from city to city. They want to hire somebody, messengers, lifestyle expenses, how much is to stay at an inn and whatnot. Food and drink. That's the DM screen.
There's a lot of stuff on just this, and there's still an entire binder.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's mainly for improv. This is like kind of helping to run the game.
So strap in, because this is the main show. Oh, that lamp is having a hard time today.
This lamp is. So get yourself a binder.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. He's got a little party over a fire, probably after a long day. It's this nice black binder, and he's got loads of tabs sticking up.
Yeah, I just found a picture online that I thought would fit. It did, so I put it in.
Mm-hmm.
I got that. I think this is the only picture I ever tried in there.
Yeah, I mean, something to maybe not aspire to, but admire is there was somebody in my senior seminar class for my theater courses, and she had made I don't remember what it was, but this was an entire campaign binder that somebody could just look at it and run. And I think she said she had 7 binders for this one campaign.
Oh my God.
Full, 3-inch binders.
Organization.
No, she's...
It's a turn on.
Oh, she's married. I was a little sad to hear that. But, no, she's just quirky. She was a stage manager, so those people are insane already. And if you've ever...
that makes sense then, yeah.
Yeah, if you've ever seen a stage manager, they've always got a huge, massive playbook. Yeah. Every single cue, all the technical parts of it, all the lighting cues.
She's already in that.
Her brain works that way already. So...
Now, I do have, it's not a binder, but almost like a bunch of small folders, almost like an accordion folder, that has different stuff in it. Folds up like an accordion. I just put different papers and items in there. But this binder I use every session. So immediately on the inside is just kind of immediate information for myself. We have a character or a player who's not able to be there so often. We were able to kind of give his character a way to send off for a little bit. But when he was in flux, I was either having to run his character or someone else was, so I had his sheet just right here ready to go. Past that, I have stuff I don't need.
Yeah, there's a lot of papers I'm looking at, guys. He's flipping through one of those pockets on the very left side next to the cardboard.
Yes. Normally, I don't move all this stuff because it's Braxton's here. Normally, this side has a bunch of items, item cards, and other things that I might need immediately that I would hand to the party. So, like, for example, last session, one of the players wrote this letter as a character to give to them. I just had this sitting here ready to hand off.
Yeah.
But I have items here normally, item cards. And DMs don't have to do item cards, but I think they're a good way for
But there are some things in there you're like, cool. I want them to get this so bad.
Yeah, some places I'm like, okay, they didn't find it here. I'll move it to some other place that makes sense.
Yeah. That's definitely something. Keep your DM's binder around and keep your items in a place. And don't forget that your world is changeable. And it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat where they don't know what's out there or what is or isn't there. So if there's an item that you really want them to get and you had this perfect temple, and your players just weren't going into that room and you didn't want to railroad them, so you're like, I want to
just maybe move that somewhere outside else. Or just so that if you want to find it, then you can just make it easy. Or it's a couple sessions later, no rush.
Demon's Binder is great to keep track of that stuff so that you can reuse things.
Yeah, it's great to reuse. You might feel bad. I prepped this huge dungeon. The party decided, you know what? We're going to go north instead of headed south. Shit. Okay, well, move that dungeon north and just change. Maybe it's instead of a desert dungeon, it's now a mountainy dungeon. Obviously, you have to change some flavor, but easy enough. So this left side has other things I just kind of need immediately. Like I was saying, it has a huge sheet of just NPC stuff. I don't know where I generated these from. It just has their names, which is usually what I end up using, a brief description about them, and a brief little plot point about them, which I don't generally use unless I really have.
Use that second one.
As Strilled. some weird names on here. But it says yeah, she's a female human soldier, as trilled as
Her
rugged.
stats are pretty
in
average.
appearance.
Wow. Actually, she's got technically a
so-
base 10 stats on everything. Like she's got
She did.
11 strength, balanced out by 9 charisma, 10 dex, 10 wisdom, but 12 con and an 8 intelligence. So
She's
technically,
got messy auburn hair and soft blue eyes.
should we make? Is she single?
Oh, she's got an animal. She's got a ginger ferret named Goldie. How cute is that?
Why Goldie? Okay,
Oh,
you know what?
Godfrey, sorry.
Thank you. I was about to say.
I just saw Geo. I was like, Goldie, boom. So now if you see a lady in the game that resembles this, you know
Well,
where
if you misstep and say, you had Godfrey,
Oh,
it was the perfect name.
yeah.
You say Goldie, just
Go
scratch it
for
out. Go,
Yeah.
Don't.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Write down where you use these so you don't forget.
I would be terrible. This is why computers are good for me.
So I used this guy named Indel, and I had a noble who I knew was there. His name was Aldern. I knew he had some servants. I was like, I'm not gonna bother with these
Eldon.
guys. I'm not gonna bother with these guys. They're just servants, whatever.
Yeah.
But they happened to ask, "What's this guy's name?" He actually was the one. I think he died. Actually,
He did die.
He did die. Yeah, this was very early on.
Good guy. Recipes. It's too soon.
But in case they ever run into Aldern again, I was like, I don't know who this guy is. This is Aldern's servant. I wrote that down. Yeah, just random stuff like that. You got to make sure you keep track of on these.
Now I can see because you've got this all in one pocket.
I should organize this pocket.
You should organize, but it seems like you know what's there. But I know I would mess up a lot.
This one I definitely actually.
I mean, hell, even there you could just use tabs still.
Yeah.
Like you got color coordinated stuff. It wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah. This I don't remember where I got either. It says right there, like this chart. I do. Check out the lazy dungeon master.
That guy's great.
This is Sly Flourish right here. Yeah.
We did go through that.
We did
lazy.
talk about it a little bit. Yeah. We
should do it pretty decent because that was immensely useful.
Very handy. And this is not from that, but it's one of his resources he gave out for free, I believe.
Check him out for sure.
It has just NPC titles, occupations. He likes basing things around movies and books that we've talked about before. And so there's kind of movie-inspired quests and things here, different adventure seats if you need them on the fly, as well as on the back, different monsters, traps, treasures.
Scythe blade, electrified floor tile.
Yeah. Braxton's talking about the next sheet is random traps.
Yeah.
Which I believe all these I got from Don John. I just generate a bunch and just copied and pasted them all into whatever.
Don John's great. D-O-N-J-O-N.
Actually, now that I mention it, I think that's where I got these NPCs as well.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yep. Yeah.
We talked about Don John last time.
Generated like 20 of them and then put them into a Word document.
Yeah.
Which we've used a lot of these. I need to get some more now.
Yeah, I would say make sure you mark stuff off because I'm bad at recording stuff during the session just because I only do 2.5 hour sessions. Yeah, I'll remember. I'm that guy in class. Like, I don't need to write this down.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need to take this, 2 ounces of effort to remember something later that I'll be pissed about before. But cross stuff off. Write stuff down. Please.
But it's also at the same time, maybe it's a common name. And I definitely used a couple names a few times.
You even used your own.
I have used my own.
Soldier.
But that was actually a guy I prepped, funny enough. And the other, there's another one. It was a foreman named Daniel, which is his name.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
It was also prepped. I mean, it's just normal dudes in the area. They don't have to be crazy fantasy names like Ustak Udaba,
Yeah, that one ready.
I don't know how it's spelled.
There was no hesitation.
He's
wait, that was a real guy?
Yeah, how do I spell it?
Which one?
Oh, no, I just made that up.
My God, he's a genius. You too can be like this.
If you get a DM binder.
You listen to our installations of podcasts. $5.99. But wait now, you can get 2 podcasts.
So immediately, and this I haven't used yet, but I really want to, is this combat narration
I saw
sheet.
that and I was like, please, dear God, tell me about that. It sounds so cool.
We will have a whole session just on running combat, I'm sure, at some point. Again,
it needs to be our penultimate. We put a lot of effort into it because
Yeah.
it's something we both passionately care about.
Because my favorite part of any game is role playing, and combat can really bog down. You don't want that. You don't want to look over and see a player just twiddling their thumbs.
It's so hard to make that not happen.
It's tough.
I mean, there's effects that even I do willingly, like Tomb Levistus, that puts me out for 2 turns.
Mm-hmm. What do you do for those 2 turns? Just twiddle your thumbs while everyone else has fun.
Yeah. So,
which I guess is the downside or benefit of using that, but
5e does have some boring mechanics in it, but
yeah,
there's a way to bring in role playing into combat.
Which this combat narration, I would definitely encourage it's to try to get your players to do some of this as well. I know Braxton's kind of started doing this with some of his spells. He'll kind of describe it out of his glaive or something like that.
Yeah.
In his book. It has stuff for bludgeoning attacks, which would be like if it has you can roll a d12, but I would just grab something that works. You grab for bludgeoning, it's a big hammer. Maybe it's a bone jarring hit right into the enemy. Growl of pain.
Ryan's pretty good at random noises. Did this? We were walking through snow previously, and I was thoroughly impressed by the noise he did with that.
Glad you like my snow.
10 out of 10. Would step in that snow again.
Thanks. Yeah, it was pretty crunchy snow.
It was good. There were bones.
Some ASMR.
Yeah.
So bludgeoning, that's stuff for slashing, piercing, ranged, magic as well, and even if you fail or miss something. And even these aren't like extreme like we're talking about.
Now these have. It tells you to roll 1d12, but it may get a bit overwhelming if you every time somebody hits you roll another die. Like, what are you doing back there?
Like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Just rolling dice.
I'd say just grab one you think fits for the attack.
But yeah, this is really cool because I do like describing when people get hit. And sometimes I'll say, hey, you're dodging this or you're doing this hit. You've connected. You know how much damage you're doing. Go ahead and describe to me exactly what you're doing, what you're aiming for, what happens.
I like that.
It's fun to do.
It can make, even if it's just a mano-a-mano combat, nothing exciting happening, it can make it feel exciting because you're describing these, blood's getting spattered. The characters are breathing heavy. They're looking rough.
Well, we did the Daily Entomb thing, and at the end of it, it was so exciting because they had finished off the bugbear and rounded up the goblins that they needed to sell off to the village. And they finally, after much light guidance on my behalf, very vague hints, they opened up the secret chamber and, ran into the undead skeleton form of Sextus Varius or something like that.
Yeah, something like
that. I think I don't know. They ran into him, and some of the others left because they didn't want to mess with, like, crazy voodoo magic. And our pirate friend, who's kind of based off of Jack Sparrow and Obi-Wan together, which is a very interesting combo. Really interesting combo. So he's kind of charismatic and quirky and a little bit sinister. And while he's fighting them, he does a pretty good attack roll. And he's like, can I do a maneuver to like slide under his legs and then hit him in the back? And I was like, technically no, but yes, because it's really cool.
Yeah, the rule of cool.
So I was like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I slide under him. And my brain went, I don't know if he can do that. But I didn't say anything because, it's our game. There's no one from Wizards of the Coast going to be like, beat under. I know you did something wrong. So he slides around and hits him in the back. And then from that, after eventually my player won the fight, the Sextus Varius had said, I'm a knight, so I fight valiantly, and maybe I don't respect the kind of trickiness that you use in this fight, but I do respect your ability as a warrior. And it was kind of a cool, it flavored the entire thing after that.
Yeah, it's important to remember that it's, again, you're playing a game, you want to make sure you have them. Wizards of the Coast guys, they'd probably agree, saying the rule of cool, if something's cool and it's not going to radically throw off your game or make another player have a bad time, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it even happened to maybe a session or two where it was like, I don't know if that really, but why not? Sure. It could be fun. Make for a cool moment.
Yeah, and this would be very useful for me because of a lot of reasons, but adventuring gear, artisan's tool, common items, is a whole page dedicated to that. So
what we mentioned, the other one has, on the screen, has weapons. This has everything else. This has all the adventuring gear and the artisan tools and the common items. And I'd recommend, cobbler's tools or thieves' tools. You gotta understand what that is just on a basic level. You look it up, but Xanathar's guide explains all the more uses for these, and I recommend check those out.
Yeah.
And Braxton talked about this before the game or before the podcast. If you're a DM and you don't entirely want to prep everything that shops have, grab this adventuring gear sheet, or there's other sheets as well you can grab and say that this particular seller has everything from 15 gold down or 20 gold down, 50 gold down. There's some stuff on here that's like 1,000 gold, and would you say, would someone have that?
Yeah.
Which is crazy, the spy glass.
Nice page, and you just want to throw some rewards in this chest that they're opening up, and you haven't prepped it, so.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a lot.
Yes. But it doesn't have to be a lot. So these two pages that Braxton is admiring is from Behind the Tables, the page. And it has two specific tables for if players are in the woods or if they're in the mountains, and it can help for just flavoring, making it feel like a living place. It can even help you just to make up cool plots.
Yeah, I'll need that stories. A lot, actually.
So there's ones for interesting locations. For example, you could find an abandoned cabin. Well, okay, what's in the abandoned cabin? That's when you can use one of those other sheets from before. Maybe it's not really abandoned, just looks abandoned, ghosts or something there. And I believe there might even be, yeah, there's one even who lived in the abandoned cabin. It says another D6 and the fur traders. A lot of fur stuff there, or dwarf prospector, something. Well, distinguishing landmarks, which I will basically I use this a lot for travel because I don't want to prep every single thing along the travel.
Yeah.
So I'll have whoever's want to lead the day. I'll say make a perception check, and depending on what it is, I'll say you see this stuff or you see that or something interesting. If it's just really high, then maybe they see some monster, some creature off in the distance that they wouldn't have seen otherwise. If it's lower, then obviously they still see stuff.
You do that quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, just make the world feel bigger than just the area that you guys are walking on.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a dragon that you guys have seen in the distance for a few sessions now, just so you know it exists.
Well, you started that off with something insanely, for lack of better words, epic, as we get into this area and it's kind of nighttime. When it was a storm, but there was no lightning or anything that was going on, but we saw this streak of blue thunder that just shot through the sky. And we're like, what the hell?
What the hell could that be?
And something like in Skyrim that, and I think Breath of the Wild had this philosophy, is they walked in a direction, and if they walked for X amount of time, or if it was too long without something that was interesting to do, they put something there.
Yeah. I think Witcher, same way.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm thinking of Kingdom Come Deliverance. They actually have random encounters built into the game.
I've been interested in that game, but I've heard such mixed stuff about it.
It's got its moments. It's all right. It's not great. I'd get on sale.
You played it a bit.
Yeah.
No, I do have it because of Humble Bundle.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Okay.
Some good mods for it too. Then the other page is basically just the same thing, just for mountains. And again, these are on D&D behind the screen r/screen.
List of the benign. I'm peeking ahead here.
Yeah, the next one's list of benign urban encounters, which
benign
again,
meaning they're not like that.
Yeah, just again to make it feel lived in. Make it feel like there's stuff going on. Similarly, I have kind of all the encounter stuff, random encounters in the same area. So I have mountains, forests. I need some for urban. So there's a bunch of, I think it's 150 urban encounters. Like a chamber pot is emptied above them. Just I usually will throw these in if they're walking through the city, and I'll try to find something that just, I guess, like he said, not necessarily exciting or interesting, but it's a city.
They're vague enough to where you could use them multiple times.
Yes.
So that's something that I was going to touch on again, and we've hit it over the head many times, is I would need to cross something off because I would randomly pick from this.
You get it again.
And you know how hard it is to cover something when you randomly pick stuff and you don't remember which ones are open still.
Sure.
It's just tough to mess around with.
Sure.
That was a lot.
A lot of cool things on here.
Wow.
Like you're recognized by a drunk, or a peddler approaches to try to scam the party.
A bee stings a nearby child who blindly runs in a PC for soothing.
Cute, huh?
What?
It's very specific. Yeah. A politician on a box of soap.
Very friendly cat.
Makes eye contact with a PC.
Narration roll charts.
Yeah, so this is from the same one that had the combat description.
Now, if you've got a random roll chart and you're rolling to find out that your king speaks to the party randomly, that
you
probably shouldn't be doing that.
But, for example, where you could use that is a far-off king that you haven't necessarily prepped. You know this kingdom has a king. They just hear about it from some guy. Boom. There you go. It's King Gandhi's. From where? That's a problem. That's not on here.
No. You gotta, hopefully you know your world at this point a little bit.
So this is narration roll chart that has ways for character names, which I think is really nice. It's not just names, it's syllables, and you can place the syllables together. Also has descriptions of the characters, like let's say King Gardes, whatever that his name is. Very where's angelic clothing? He looks very pretty. Its personality is
pretty, so witty, and
the personality is comical, and he's secretly a cultist.
Well, not so secret anymore.
Well, you wouldn't tell the part.
Yeah, don't tell him that.
Say, I think he's a cultist. But these, again, just kind of random stuff. There are roll tables, but I prefer to just kind of grab ones.
Again, it can be weird if you're just clanking dice back there all the time.
You could say weird is good because it could lead to some interesting ideas, but
yeah, well, some DMs roll a random dice just to freak people out.
I don't think I've ever done that. I think I have.
I'm giving him a look right now.
I don't think I have.
He rolls a lot of dice.
I do roll a lot of dice.
At very arbitrary moments.
They're important. Same with organizations. Again, there's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, there really is.
So this I think is important because we talked about before with NPCs. They don't always have to have fun accents. This has dialects specifically, and even has examples. Because I'm bad at just hopping into an accent. If I have an example, much easier.
Yeah, one NPC we frequent is Domir, and he used to have a Scottish accent. Now you've got a gruff thing going on.
It's easier for my voice to do that. Yeah, the first time I didn't realize they would be talking to him for so long. Yeah, it was a little tough. So this has a bunch of different ones, like a lisp. And it says, "I thought I saw a snake." Exactly what that means, but
I couldn't understand it. So
maybe a snake. I thought I saw a snake.
Thought I saw a snake.
Just an example: Swedish in words on an A. Don't know if that's Swedish, but it's at least something. It's something for your NPC to talk.
Mildly questionable.
Yeah, mildly questionable. Southern, hard G, truncate slur. Y'all didn't see nothing. See? There you go.
We live in Texas, or you do now. I don't.
Yeah. Anyway, it just has a lot of ideas. Just even not accent wise, breathy. Yogi Bear. Boo boo. Sure. Quest plots, nicknames, character superpowers. I don't know why this is on here.
Like what?
Let's see. This one is freeze things upon touch. I don't know why it's here, but it's here. You need it.
Very vague.
Random settlement names, wilderness names, forest encounters, roads, streets. You get the idea.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, you need stuff on the fly. Boom. Have that stuff prepared.
Now here we go. This is
more random encounters. This is for roads.
Okay.
So if they're traveling instead of wilderness, I would consider off the road. Mountains, I would consider off the road. This specifically if you're on the well-traveled pathway. So just random stuff.
Gotcha. And then you've got some vocational things over here.
Mm-hmm. Again, write down. If you use them, it has names of different blacksmiths, leather workers, just things on the fly. Creating NPCs is the next thing. This is basically all my kind of improv area for stuff that I use a lot. So it has NPC appearance, personalities, faith, flaws, and I'd say even more than that. So it's got their prejudices over here. Doesn't have any names, but names were earlier. So just make sure have a tab that you can flip to in the back here.
This is very similar to that random NPC generator that we've linked a couple of times. So I think to give a pros and cons for mostly pros, just for this right now, it gives you a lot of control to scan quickly and pick something that you need and want versus the thing online. It takes a moment to click. You do click a button, it's quick.
Yeah,
but you have to, if you're wanting something specific, you have to click around and stuff. It takes more time and you're fumbling around. This is really good for immediate specificity.
Yes. And if you don't have access to a laptop or anything at the time, that's basically what I use. I do have a laptop, but it's also very slow. So that's the end. I have a little divider here. That's the end of kind of the beginning section.
And then I think this is the part where we're getting into Pathfinder things.
Yes. So yeah, I mentioned this
to
Braxton. I mentioned this to Braxton. I love the DM's guide. I love the player's handbook, and we'll do deep dives into those at some point. Pathfinder has a lot of handy stuff for DMs. A lot of handy stuff. A lot of roll tables, a lot of ideas and things you can grab for it. And I just went through the book and found what I thought was the best, printed it out, and kept it.
So this is all in the player's handbook.
Whatever the equivalent is to the DM's guide. I don't remember what it's called.
That's crazy though, because the monster manual in D&D, like it's not as beefy as you think it would be.
Yeah.
It is newer though. You think they might release like a second version?
For what? The monster manual?
Player's handbook, monster manual.
Oh yeah, I think this is what Xanathars and stuff will be. Yeah.
It sucks because some people don't even consider those.
They did in the past. I don't know if you know the older editions of D&D. There was like Monster Manual 2, Monster Manual 3.
Okay.
But that's what nowadays they have like Volo's Guide is like Monster Manual 2.
It's more creative for sure, but
yeah,
I was very impressed by all of this information that he was showing.
Pathfinder's has some. I mean, even the modules of Pathfinder I think are. Again, I love Wizards of the Coast. I love what they're doing. I think the Pathfinder modules are leagues better than majority of the Wizards of the Coast modules.
Weighty words there.
They're very good. I would recommend looking through some of them if you guys ever get the chance.
Okay.
Anyway, I've gotten a lot of ideas from them for my campaign currently. Okay. So they like to have Lovecraft stuff. They have again lots of fun ideas. So this is dungeon stuff specifically. So if you need to prep a dungeon on the fly, dungeon entrances. Okay, this is all from Dungeon Toolbox section of the players and the whatever the equivalent is of you know what
Pathfinder.
exact. Or,
Yeah, so you guys can look up it. So again, this is all free form. It's a theater of the mind sort of thing, and people will maybe give you shit for going into other maybe editions of D&D or even going to other games, but just do what you want.
Yeah, yeah. I believe it came from Ultimate Campaign. If not, it came from the Advanced Player's Guide, which would make sense. So yeah, I think it was come from. Oh, I take that back. I think it was probably from the Game Mastery Guide. One of those. It's a lot of options. I just
We've
tossed
lost
out.
all of our credibility.
It's been a long time since I opened those up. That's my bad.
But this is the majority of his book here.
Yeah. Then I have dungeon entrances again, all from the dungeon toolbox section. The next stuff after that, I have a couple of things from, I think all the dungeon stuff in that section. Then I have these fantastic stuff called the Dungeon Alphabet, which you can find if you look up Dungeon Alpha, you can find it. They also have another
Google
book
is it
called
Google.com?
Yep, there you go.
Look
Heard of it?
Yeah.
Monster Alphabet is another one specifically for monsters. You guessed it. I have one for A is for altars. And I feel like I'm doing a kid's book. A is for altars. Good job. C is for caves. D is for doors. And all of these has little fun descriptions. And then has a roll table of and these are system agnostic. So they're not related to any system.
Yeah.
You can bring them into any game. Like you said, even Call of Cthulhu, I'm sure you could use this stuff in.
One of the most quirky things that Ryan does is a thing for books.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a lot of the names from this resource, right?
Yeah, so there was specifically this sheet here. There's E is for echoes, but F is for fungi. The players were in an archives, and one of the NPCs was super interested in books and began reading. And one of the players, hey, what are you reading? And she's like, well, I found this book about fungus. He was like,
what?
What? And I just shows one of these, and I'm like, have you ever heard of this? He was like, that's really weird. But
you're missing this great art. A lot of angry mushrooms with eyes.
Yeah.
Grabbing onto the pages.
Yeah.
It's actually really, really cool looking.
Yeah, and there's only 8 of them, but they're all crazy. And so you use all 8 of these for some reason. Should be a lot of fungus, first of all. But then you could maybe just mix and match, only use part of it or use the latter part. You can still end up using the sheet.
Yeah.
It's very handy. Good for improving stuff on the fly. And even then you make your players think, did he have that fungus thing prepped for? What's that been here? Hallways, levers, lots of stuff. I would recommend just going to the Dungeon Alphabet, grabbing something you like.
And something to touch on right now is when I'm DMing and a lot of it's just painting word pictures, I tend to forget what things actually look like and how intense artwork can be. So always get these resources, and if any of them have pictures, really look at them.
Oh, yeah.
I really do forget how intense things are in person or even in artwork. And
I'd even recommend, let's say, really want to describe this cool castle that the players see. Sure, you can write about it, but it's one thing reading to your players, other thing telling them what they're seeing and showing them. Pull up a illustration or picture and just have it in front of you and just see what your eyes go to first and describe that to the players.
Yeah.
Use cues like that. I might even mention that in the DM's guide. I recently reread it.
Yeah.
I think it might mention something about looking at
I just get stuck in this. I need to improv and describe something and just toss it out, but I don't let my brain actually experience it, which is I need to be going from the player's perspective.
Sure.
So,
and it's important to remember the senses as well. It doesn't always be sight, sound, smell, all sorts of touch.
Don't forget the sixth sense. Hunger.
Spooky. Oh.
Sorry.
So the next one is just about small little trinkets. Literally, it says trinkets on here. This is the only thing I believe I have in here that is from those.
Yeah.
But just trinkets there. More stuff from the Dungeon Alphabet. By trinkets, I mean literally the table of trinkets in the DM's guide. Then 100 book titles, which is from the Dungeon Alphabet. I use this all the time because I have a particular player who likes searching for books.
Yeah.
And of course, it doesn't describe what the book is. For example, this one's called At Dawn I Die by Edward 2X. A lot of different things.
Yeah.
Probably make it up on the fly.
Facilitate improv. So, humor me here. What is that
Sure.
X?
Huh?
What is that X and what is that Y and what is it Z? I just want to know because no. Like X is for. Does it go down there in the alphabet?
Oh yeah, it goes all the way through
What is it? What is X?
I don't have it right now.
You don't have X?
Probably not. I probably didn't need it. Probably X is for xylophones or something like that. No, I think it's actually all of them are very good. I have the book over there, so we can grab it if you want to grab it now, or
we
I
can
can tell you later.
You guys, we'll tell you in the next podcast.
Sure. Or
viewer
you could buy
continuity.
yourself.
Wow.
Check it out. And tell them that the Dungeon Crawl sent you. Huh? Anyway, next one is there's a brief section on making combat interesting, which is by A Fistful of Dice, which they're fantastic. And we're, like I said, we're planning on having a whole podcast just on combat at some point. This is going to be very handy, just especially the last page about encounter events, just to throw a wrench in combat, make it change and morph. It's going to be very important.
God, that last fight we had was textbook. We fought a Wendigo, and I don't want to get too much into it. We should save that for combat, but that was... You've been doing really well in the last few fights.
Trying to make it a little more interesting.
That was insane. It's blurring the lines between turn-based and the freestyle of role-playing in D&D. You get stuck in the rigidity of these turns, but it's possible to inject.
To break out of it. Yeah. Specifically, I asked all the players, I try to do this every few months, ask them what they like and what they don't like about what's been going on recently, and a few of them mentioned the combat. Like, okay, let's make it more interesting. So I spent some time to try to more interesting. And what Brax is talking about is the creature would flee and it was just creepy stuff. It has a mimicry trait. So it would mimic voices and things it heard in his life and even start mimicking the party, and then would attack them again later. And the party barely made it out of there. It was some close stuff.
My character at level 8 has 105 HP with temp, so it knocked me down to 35. And I had resistance to cold, which it was dealing. And oh man,
things were getting nutty.
Yeah.
And coming after that is tavern stuff and a lot of town stuff will be going here. This is going back into Pathfinder.
There was one point that I was very interested in, and it's the idea behind what's in a shop or a traveling merchant. Sure. And you even said the thing earlier before we talked is that a merchant would have everything up to like 50 gold or a mark point there, and that's a really good way to
player's handbook.
Yeah, because you go to in video games, of course, they've got a random allowable set of items that they can generate, but you're a DM, you've got to think of it yourself. But this allows for some more freeform and randomness, but controlled so that it's not overwhelming.
It can give you time to focus on things that are more important instead of saying, okay, this person has this item.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have that one. And you could even make it so you can, if, for example, they do ask something very specific that does fall into that price range, would it really wouldn't make sense for this guy to have it? Say that he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And then the final section here is, which I don't use too often. I usually use this final one if I'm actually prepping for the game. Yeah, it's in the final. It's the very back. It's tools for game masters again. Pathfinder has stuff for plots, MacGuffins, plot twists, more NPC stuff, their personality characteristics, and goals. Because the reason why I don't use this in game is because there is a lot of information here. There's like D100s of every bit of information, and so that's a lot to do in the middle of
and we are getting to the end here as well.
Yeah, it's in the middle of the game, so I'll just do it in prep beforehand. Make my NPCs a little more interesting.
Okay, then you've got some items there as well. That's past stuff, though.
Yes, so the items here at the back are the last campaign, or if the party decides to sell an item, I'll take it and put it on the right side instead of keeping it in front and center. Staff of Frost, and I even have old maps here. Item. That's the DM binder.
Now, really thinking about that, it wasn't like that was a lot of pages, a lot of ink, and a lot of putting together.
A lot of stuff to go there.
Once you use it a lot, and just like anything,
pays dividends.
You get to learn to navigate that a lot.
I use that guy quite often.
Yeah, you can hear you pick it up every section, flipping through it, and it doesn't ever take you too long to get through it all.
No.
And don't forget, you've got laptops, and there's a way to make DM's binders and immense amounts of resources there.
Control F or something.
Yeah, and there are communities everywhere. Somebody's made a DM's binder for the type of campaign that you like to run.
For example, mine, it was a YouTube video, because I made this like my second or third session. I knew we were starting to get serious with it. It was a YouTube video. I think it might have been by A Fistful of Dice, the guy I read earlier, talking about his DM binder. And a lot of it was some of the same information, but I just took his ideas and started flipping through the books like, okay, that looks cool. That doesn't. I don't want that. That looks cool. And some stuff I agree with, some stuff I didn't agree with. Whatever you think's important needs to go in your DM binder.
Yeah. That really inspired me. And I just got a new resource. Granted, you don't need to spend money, like pretty much at all, to make a Demon's Binder.
Yeah.
I mean, some things you might need to get paper and whatnot, but
Sure.
I just got a fun little computer that has a pen and I can draw on. So I'm going to be doing and bring in the digital aspect because I seem to represent more of that on this podcast. If you're doing Roll20, I would recommend getting a tablet or something that you can draw on actively, because that aspect of a pen and paper map is so useful. Because fiddling with stuff online and softwares like Fog of War, there's a learning curve. It's a bit above me right now in the effort
Especially
that I want to extend.
I mean, you mentioned before you have less time to prep for things, so
yeah.
lazy DM stuff just what you need.
These resources can help.
Oh, yeah.
It just dedicating that one bit of time, 1 week, losing a little sleep or missing out on something will save you so much time later. And this is why I think for this, like, since I'm here, it was perfect to do right now. We could see it, and it was really great to be able to do that. But as always, we've been the Dungeon Crawl.
We are the Dungeon.
We have social media and emails.
Right.
At Dungeon Crawl Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
Boom.
And our email is thedungeoncrawlpod at gmail.com. Send us resources or questions, any things that you have like that. Especially leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes.
That'd be great. Yeah, so leave us 5 stars and say how much you hate us or something like that. Say you love pumpkins. I don't know.
No, we're open to pretty much anything right now, and this is something that I think both of us very, very much enjoy doing. And we also stream me at Nesugiru on Gmail, so NESUGIRU. What did I say? Twitch, Gmail. No, I do have that.
I don't think Gmail has a streaming service yet.
No, it doesn't. But they probably will. Ryan does as well at Melasior.
MELACIOUR.
We both messed up on that.
And we play every Thursday, sometimes Wednesday, depending on the week.
We don't know when we're streaming next week necessarily, but it is spooky. We've been playing. Is it here?
Mm-hmm.
Is that it, or is it?
Yeah, we were here. We were here too, and then we were here together.
It's been insanely fun. So if you feel like checking that out, or some other streamers that are doing it,
inspiration for D&D puzzles.
Yes, if you're wanting puzzles, though it may be a bit too overwhelming without the visual aspect.
But you can dumb them down.
I would really recommend that.
It's just good ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to research, games, movies, books, anything that you
Pull things from everything. Plagiarize with pride.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's all right.
I've been Braxton.
I've been Ryan.
Thanks for listening.
Take care.